So here we've got a Game Boy Color that I brought from eBay. Bought it as spares for repairs. It is meant to work. It says it does load and play games, however the buttons aren't working.
So I got this to learn a bit more about Game Boys. While I was at uni, I had an Atari Lynx. That was my portable gaming system. Before that I had an Amiga, and then consoles I had a Sega Saturn and then a Dreamcast. I don't have a lot of knowledge around the Nintendo systems at all. I have opened up the Game Boy Color before and put an IPS screen in one, but that was quite a while ago, and I just haven't really done much with them since. So I thought this was a good opportunity. This one seemed, potentially, as it was working, and hopefully there wasn't too much wrong with it, a good opportunity to get back into them.
I'm not sure what this game's meant to do with regards to buttons, but I can certainly move up. Down doesn't look like it's working. I don't know if left and right is working at the moment. And A and B is not doing anything. Okay, so start moves on. Again, down doesn't seem to work. Left does, but right doesn't. Although, it's just kicked in. Sound's definitely working. Yeah, I'm not convinced down's working. Yeah, down definitely doesn't work. I think right might have freed itself up. And I may have a problem with ALB. So let's have a look what's inside one of these things. It's not in too bad condition. That label isn't going to last much longer by the looks of it. Those screws are tri-ring screws that's holding the case together, so I've got a screwdriver for that. Just want to be careful when I undo this case. Don't know how brittle the plastic are on these things. Certainly Game Boy Advances that I've used before have had fairly brittle plastic. End up breaking the little posts that these screw into. These seem to be coming off fairly easy. Not hearing any nasty plastic cracking sounds. I can't remember if these have a ribbon cable or not, so I'm just being careful as I open it, but no. Power button's just fallen out there. That's okay. That just sits in there. It's easy enough. So the back cover just comes away as one piece, and then it looks like it's all one board with a ribbon cable at the top that connects to the screen. Board itself, on first glance, looks fairly clean. Can't see any evidence of any water damage. Doesn't look like it's been abused. That ribbon cable is held on with these two brown clips. They just need to be pushed. You can see through my big head. They need to be pushed up. And once they're all the way up, that ribbon cable should come out. Not sure the best way to do it, so I'm just going to try these tweezers just to see if I can ease it out gently. And then the board itself is held on with 3 Phillips screws. So once those screws are out, you can just lift the board out. And the screen is attached to the front part of the case, along with the actual physical buttons as well. So you got the button standard for most of these handheld consoles. You got the carbon buttons on the rubber, so the bits of plastic that you push those carbon pieces down onto those pads and create a circuit. So you can see, I don't know, what is it, like a clamshell or a Pac-Man, if you want to describe it as that. That the carbon just comes down and closes the circuit between those two pads. So hoping this is just a fairly straightforward clean-up job. So get some IPA out and just clean the carbon pads very gently. You don't need to press really hard. You don't want to rub off the carbon itself. You're just trying to remove any surface dirt there. So a cotton wool bud soaked in IPA. And then again, just going over the actual pads themselves with some IPA, just making sure they're nice and clean. And overall it doesn't look too bad, it doesn't look too dirty. The pads themselves don't look particularly worn. Sometimes these little pads can lose the material that makes them conductive. So what I'm just doing here is just checking for resistance across them, just making sure that the resistance isn't too high. Each one that I test, I don't see any issues with that at all, so I think that these are okay. If you do hit a problem with one of them, you could try and maybe recoat it in something like conductive paint, or you could maybe use a little bit of conductive copper tape. But the easiest thing to do is just replace them. They're the pence on eBay, these things. So just get yourself some new rubbers and replace those. But these test out all okay. So I'm feeling pretty hopeful at the moment. Can't see any damage. Everything looks fairly clean. Just giving the start and select button a bit of a clean because I missed that earlier. Some green gunk near the start button, but that comes off really easy. So just finish my cleaning and then I'll put it back together. Good thing about these things is they're fairly easy to work with. There's not too many pieces to undo. Everything is all on one board. They're quite nice to work on compared to something like a Game Gear. So just sit the board back in, make sure the speaker, I would suggest making sure the speaker is positioned right first. That's got a definite hole that it needs to go in, so line that up, then get the board right. I was faffing around here with the tweezers. I don't think that's a good idea. Just use your fingers to get it back in. Goes in easy enough, and then just apply a little bit of pressure to it as you close down the tabs to lock it in. Just checking the ports, make sure they're nice and clean. Then I'm just putting a couple of screws back in to hold the board in place so I can test it. Back cover goes on. Not screwing it in at the moment. Just want to test to see if that's improved anything. With the batteries in and the cartridge in, it does actually hold the case together quite well. I've not put the power button back, so I just need to flip the power switch with some tweezers. Down's working, that's good, that's an improvement. That wasn't working before. Up, down, left and right is working. So at this point, I think I've cracked it. I mean, I don't know how to play this Tetris 2 game. I mean, what the hell are those flashing things that are going off down there? It's not Tetris as I remember it. The B button works. I can press that and it rotates, so that's good. So yeah, at this point, I think we might be all finished. So at this point, I think, well, all done, right? Not a great video, but a nice little introduction back to Game Boys. And I was due an easy win. However, that wasn't to be. So before the final assembly, I thought I'll clean this thing a little bit, as I don't really want to be coming back in here. I'm choosing a credit card with a bit of J-cloth and soaked in some IPA just to run backwards and forwards along the card terminals, just to make sure they're nice and clean. I thought I would spray some contact cleaner on the on-off switch, as I know that some Game Boys are notorious for having issues with the on-off switch, and some of them you've got to take apart and actually open up and clean because the contact cleaner just doesn't do a good job. I mean, I wasn't having problems with this on-off switch, but while I'm in here, just hit it with some contact cleaner and just move it backwards and forwards. Just try and break up any oxidation that was going to happen inside there. And then the other thing I did, based on the original advert that said the speaker didn't work, is I know that sometimes with the headphone socket, I believe there's a switch inside there that as you plug the headphones in, the idea is that the switch disables the speaker. So looking under the microscope inside there, I could see that again it was a little bit green. So I thought again, while I'm in here, I'll take the opportunity to give it a clean, and hopefully one less job to do in the future. So all I did is just hit it with some contact cleaner again, used the end of the cotton wool bud that I'd cut down a little bit to make it fit, and just give it a scrape with the tweezers as well, just so it was nice and clean. So I reassembled the case, and I thought I would give it another test. Thought I might try a different game this time, after my massive failure with Tetris 2. So I thought I'd try Donkey Kong Country this time. Now this took forever on the multi-cart, so I'll speed this bit up. Okay, so far so good. I haven't broken it. Again, another game that I've not played before. So pressing the buttons, I was able to roll, but pushing up didn't jump, and pushing A didn't jump. I'm not actually sure at this point if I should be able to jump. Now there's a ledge above me there, so you'd think you'd be able to jump up to that ledge somehow. So I was trying all the different button combinations. So it's sort of slowly dawning on me that I think I still have a button problem. All the directional controls seem to work. Up, down, left, right seem fine. The B button works, but A isn't doing anything.
So I think, right, time to try a different game. The Addams Family, surely that uses 2 buttons, right? Again, not a clue what I'm doing. All the directional buttons seem fine. The B button seemed to fire an arrow, but the A button didn't do anything. But again, am I meant to be able to do anything with the A button? I've no clue. So I think I needed one more game just to see for sure if I definitely had an issue. So I ended up choosing that well-known game, Alien Olympics. So stepping through the menus, I couldn't use the A button again, but I was still able to progress through the menu. So again, is it a problem with the A button, or is it just not used at this stage? When I got to this bit though, this was promising because it was showing me that the game was definitely using both the A and B buttons to run. It seemed to be a bit like Hypersports, although just not as good. So I guess you're meant to press A and B alternate. So when I was pressing A, I wasn't moving. I was pressing B, I was moving a little bit. Pressing A and B, I didn't seem to be going any faster than just pressing B. And then when I got some speed up and then just moved to pressing A, my speed just dropped all the way off. So it's fairly conclusive at this stage. I think that I definitely had a problem with my A button. So still in a bit of disbelief because I'd cleaned this thing up. I'd tested continuity. I was fairly certain I was okay. Now this threw me because I was like, whoa! I went and grabbed another Game Boy Color, and I was like, what? That screen is so much better. What's going on? And then I realised that this was one that I'd done ages ago and actually replaced the IPS screen on there. So if you're ever thinking about doing a screen replacement like on any of these on the Game Gear, the Game Boy Advance is just night and day the difference between a modern backlit IPS screen compared to the originals. So much nicer. But what I'm doing here is, again, look at the difference there. It's just beautiful. What I'm doing is just trying this game, smashing A, and I'm running just by pressing the A button. So I've got like I probably should have realised half an hour ago, I've definitely got a problem with the A button. Hey look, it's the inside of a Game Boy again. So how to tackle this? Well, first I went and grabbed my bench power supply, and I thought I'll just power it up just while I'm inside, and I'll try and short out those pads and see if it works. But I just thought that might be a little bit fiddly, so just gone back to basics. I'm just testing the continuity and comparing the A button and the B button. And what I'm finding is that when I test the B button from a test point just above it, and I compare it to the A button again just above it, is that on the B button on 2 of the pads I am getting connectivity, but on the A button I get nothing at all from this little test point that's just above it. I get nothing, and it's really hard. You can just make it out in the picture. It's really hard to see the traces. The board is light green and the traces are white, and they don't show up very well at all. But looking at it closely, it did seem to suggest that from this test point that I'd been testing, there should be a trace to at least 2 of the pads on the A button. So I thought I'd give it another really good clean. I could see there was still a little bit of green on the A pad, so just absolutely covered it in IPA and give it a really good scrub. And I could see that it did look a lot cleaner than when I originally started. I still wasn't getting continuity, but again, almost in disbelief, I thought I'll put it back together and give it another test. And sure enough, the A button didn't work. Okay, so back to where we sort of felt we got an issue. This is the B button. There's 4 little pads. I've found a little test point above it, and looking at the trace, it looks like the trace goes to 2 of the 4 pads, and I get continuity from the test point to 2 of those pads. On the A button, on that test point, I get nothing. Back to the B button, continuity. So, I mean, I don't know for sure, but everything I could see seems to suggest that there was some sort of break between this point. I mean, the board looks clean. There was no, other than that green, a little bit of green on the pads, no obvious breaks, no obvious bits of damage, but it had to be that area. So going under the microscope for a close look. So this is that little test pad that I've been using, and between there and this pad, you can just see the track. It was really hard to see the track, but you can just see the track. So it does look like there should be connectivity. I had nothing. So I'm just scraping away at the track just to try and expose a little bit of copper, and then see if I can get any connectivity between that pad and this point that I'm scraping away. So even though I've got a little bit of copper there, I was getting nothing. Okay, I'm going to go for it now, because I don't know, I just can't see a break. There's just nothing obvious at all. So I'm going to scrape away at the track underneath, expose some of the copper underneath. And when I test from the track down to the pad, I get continuity. But if I test from that little test point to what I've scraped away, I get nothing. And it's same for the track that goes off to the right again. So I've definitely got a bit of copper there, but no continuity. The gap didn't look too big, so I put some flux down, and I thought I would try and bridge the gap between the that circular point and the tracks. Wasn't quite as easy as what I thought. In hindsight, I probably should have used a trace, but it didn't look that big a gap. I thought I should just be able to bridge it with a bit of solder. You can see that top trace there, just a little bit of a gap between the circle and the trace. But in the end, with a bit of persistence and a lot of solder, it did finally take. Unfortunately, I did catch one of the pads with the soldering iron, so I just put some flux down and used a solder braid and just soaked up as much solder as I could. They left the pads silver, but they were nice and smooth. So I don't think that's going to cause me any issues. Gave it a test. This time I did have continuity, so all that was left to do was to give it a bit of a clean, and this is what I was left with. So there's the silver pads, but again nice and smooth. Alright, time to put it together again and see if that's made any difference. So at this point I've got no idea if I should have done that repair or not. I don't have enough experience with these devices to know if that was what should have been happening in the tracks. I've got no idea as to why there would be no connectivity around that circular pad. Just didn't make sense. But you know, it looked like there should be, so that's what I went for. Back to the test game again. Just playing with the volume button because I couldn't remember if there should have been sound here in these menus. So I was a little bit concerned that maybe I messed the sound up, but yes, pressing A lets me move through the menu, so that was a really good sign. And tapping A makes my little alien run. So yeah, bit of a messy repair, and as I said, I've no idea why those tracks were in that state, but it does look to have worked, which is an amazing result. So a little bit worried about the sound, so I thought I'll try a different game, just see if I do have an issue or not. But turning it on, I could hear the ping as it started, and just loading up a different game. There you go, just holding it up to the microphone. So the sound is good. So that actually finally looks like we've got a working Game Boy. If anyone does have any ideas, or if anyone's seen anything similar to that A button problem, please let me know. So all that was left was to reassemble the case in super fast time this time, because I've seen it so many times already this video, but hopefully this was going to be for the last time. I thought I'd test it with Donkey Kong Country again, just to see if he really could jump. There you go. He is meant to jump. Thank you for watching the video. I hope it's inspired you to repair some of your own retro tech. Please remember to like and subscribe, and any comments or any questions, please leave them down below. Thank you.